Speed. A feeling of freedom when it goes beyond the limit. Duelists have been able to implement this speed into a form of dueling called turbo dueling, clashing two souls at high speeds to see which one survives and which one perishes. From this, the Vehicroids of Duel Academy have gone obsolete, leaving themselves an opening for a new form of roid to take to the streets. And from this, a bond was formed between the speedroids and a dragon whose wings are clear as the wind. Alright, it's time to go over one of my new favorite archetypes, the speedroids. Machines meant for going fast, I guess. Speedroids are a series of various leveled monsters that are meant to synchro summon many different synchro monsters depending on what you need. Some speedroids are also equipped with level modulation, so you can synchro summon speedroids that you're not normally able to synchro summon, especially with red-eyed dice. And if a speedroid tuner ends up in the graveyard, they can have graveyard effects ranging from pretty to decently nifty. Usually though, if you can't synchro summon first turn, then the speedroids can be pretty easily drop-kicked by multiple ways. But what are the odds of that happening, with multiple forms of bringing back speedroids from the graveyard and some really great searchers? The Speedroid Synchro Pool is pretty niche and can be somewhat good, but there is a sub-archetype monster that benefits from this. The best Dimension Dragon, Clearwing Synchro Dragon. Clearwing is at the perfect level for red-eyed dice to be able to modulate another Speedroid into synchro summoning it quickly, and you get a free negate if you know your opponent is playing high-level monsters. If you felt insane, you could also intentionally negate the effect of one of your own monsters, as long as it's level 5, to power up Clearwing even further, letting it beat the shit out of the other Dimension Dragons as long as it gets off its effect first and the others don't try to do weird shit with Clearwing. That being said though, you're probably going to lose a Speedroid Synchro, so I wouldn't 100% recommend doing that every time. At the same time though, Clearwing also has a couple of evolutions that can be slightly easier to bring out than you would normally think. One of those evolutions is Crystal Wing, which would normally come out if you tune Red-Eyed Dice with Clearwing Synchro Dragon. Though with Crystal Wing, since it's not the anime, you don't actually need Clearwing, you just need one of the level 5 Synchro monsters and then tune it with a level 3 tuner monster. And with that, you get a monster that is primarily cheated out so that other archetypes can use Crystal Wing to be able to do crazy stuff. Crystal Wing is primarily used as a monster negate, but if it gets into a fight with a monster that's level 5 or higher, it actually takes the attack points and adds it to its own without even having to negate it. So it can beat over any high-level monster as long as it doesn't have any kind of way to raise its attack points further. Clearwing's other evolution is actually decently easy to bring out turn 1 as long as you know what you're doing, but you do have to dabble a little bit into Excel Synchro. When you're able to get a clear mind and focus on the duel, you can Excel Synchro summon Crystal Clearwing Synchro Dragon, the cleaned up version of Crystal Wing, making it much easier for it to survive. The main benefit for Crystal Wing having a bath is that now instead of a monster negate, it just takes the attack points of a monster that activates its effect, and that becomes immune to all effects until the end of the turn. And you know how Crystal Wing and Clear Wing couldn't negate spells or traps and could only negate monsters? Well, guess what? Fuck you. Crystal Clear Wing can negate spells and traps, so fuck your goddamn skill drain! Now you might be thinking, if Crystal Wing, Clear Wing, and Crystal Clear Wing are all meant to be negates, but they steal the attack points, is there any other way that they can actually remove cards instead of just negating them? Well, when speed reaches turbo, a dual runner may be given wings clear as the wind. This creates the high speedroid Clearwing Rider, a motorcycle based on Clearwing. With Clearwing Rider, you can not only shuffle back monsters into your deck, making it so that you can re-synchro summon them again, you can also basically blow up your entire opponent's field if you get lucky enough. Aside from the Clearwing series, Speedroids could also slot in Black Rose Dragon if they really felt like it, although Black Rose Dragon I've only done in Duel Links, and in Duel Links, it is a little bit mid. It's very funny to make your opponent's field blow up and then re-synchro summon into Ruddy Rose Dragon, but it's not 100% recommended. That being said though, Speedroids also have their own dragon, known as High Speedroid Kart Dragon. a level 8 monster where when it's synchro summoned, it can either blow up the field or make it so that everything on the field cannot do anything. Usually, Kite Drake is probably the better option to summon out instead of Crystal Wing, although usually I just prefer to bring out Crystal Wing because of habit. Aside from that, you would also want to run a variety of different synchro monsters because somehow, Speedroids also got into the brains and had their own Link monster. Konami really are just dancing around, giving Utopia its own Link monster so that we can summon out Utopia even easier. Anyway, that Link monster is High Speedroid Rubber Band Shooter, a Link 2 monster that gives you an extra normal summon. Wait a second, I wasn't done. Rubber Band Shooter can also banish a Synchro monster from your extra deck to let you pick 2 monsters that equal the level of the banished Synchro monster, and your opponent gets to pick which one you add. Or if it's on Dueling Book, then it just kinda adds it for you, because your opponent isn't allowed to pick, for some reason. This actually amps up the consistency of Speedroids dramatically because most of their effects only trigger when they normal summon or if they're in the graveyard. So you can instantly mill a Speedroid to the graveyard while also getting a Speedroid you can normal summon and then using your extra normal summon to be able to get off its effect. Aside from that though, you're able to slot in as many hand traps, actual traps, and counter hand traps into your deck as you want to be able to balance it out for how you like to play. That being said though, Speedroids don't exactly have the greatest protection. The best they really have is the negates from Clear Wing, Crystal Wing, and Crystal Clear Wing. And even then, they can technically be beat over still if your opponent has a monster without a level that can get its attack higher than your Crystal Wing, Clear Wing, etc. They also, like every other archetype in the game, fall victim to Runic and Floodgates. Literally all the fucking Floodgates. The only floodgate they're not really affected by is the Wind Barrier statue, but even then, that was banned already in Master Duel because wind is a very niche attribute to run. Aside from that though, I would say that is pretty solidly how you would Speedroid. And with Speedroid finish, it'll be time to show you how to use a trap deck without being scummy like Labyrinth.